I, self, law, and master. Let's do it again, y'all. Let's pick it up. Actually, I'm kind of torn between what I want to do right now. Let me see. Give me one moment, and let's go into the circle a little bit more. If I find what what I want easily, we'll go into the circle. So we're still on chapter 10. Our textbook is The Celestial Ship of the North. The author is Emma Valencia Straight Time. This was published in 1927. It's a 2-volume work. So we're in volume 1. We skipped ahead to chapter 10 so that we could do some things that I want to do. But let's go back to the circle where we left off on the last video. And of course, if you remember, the mathematics, the algebra, and geometry associated with the circle, the center of the circle, of course, being the North Celestial Pole, and the circumference of the circle being what our ancestors drew a boundary around, right? Our ancestors drew a boundary around that which is boundless, and that's the universe. Okay, so there's nothing outside of the universe. And in the center of the circle is the North Pole. Is the North Pole. Perhaps even perhaps even uh, the pole star, perhaps even the North Pole star. See, one of the things I've learned is that we have to check everything. We cannot just accept stuff because they lie so much. They lie so much. And this whole thing, this whole modern zodiac is a remix of the circumpolar zodiac. In other words, solar time and reality, they just remixed it from Sabian time and reality. Or in other words, the circumpolar zodiac. Let me show y'all something. Hold on. 1 second. Okay, so I think it's page 14. Nope. Page 21. Why am I not remembering this? Page 21. So here's what it says, y'all. The 7 stars of the Great Bear. And by the way, these get remixed ultimately into 7 planets. Were also called the quote unquote bringers forth, i.e., of perennial time, or the beginning of time, right? There was no time before this. The perennial time and creators, so we know that energy cannot be created or destroyed. So we can get rid of this notion of creation. So what happened? It is existing consciousness, the Hermetic law of mentalism, existing consciousness that has always been, never was not, transformed into something physical, into space, right? Into space. And now that there are uh, cycles, things moving, time, okay? Time. Why? Because time is measured by the movement of something compared to another, okay? Or something going from point A back to point A, or however you want to measure it. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. The 7 stars of the Great Bear, the Great Bear, the 7 stars of the Great Bear. The Great Bear is Ursa Major. Specifically, the constellation that's referred to as the thigh of the Great Bear, today called the Big Dipper. That's what we're talking about, the seven stars of the Great Bear. We're also called the bringers forth of perennial time and creations and creators. So that would be, and the transformation of consciousness into other stuff. All right. Creators, of course, not creators, is what? Reformers, transformers. Okay, y'all get it? Of the first form taken in space. Thus, or as a consequence, right? Or what logically follows, time and space were figured as a circle by placing a boundary around that which was boundless. By placing a boundary around that which was boundless. This is the universe. So we're going to look at the algebra and the mathematics, the algebra and geometry that describes a circle. And in the center of the circle, of course, y'all, is what? Let's continue. In ancient times, the body of this constellation, that's the thigh of the Great Bear, was nearer the North Pole. This is the North Celestial Pole. So this is why I'm saying maybe, not maybe, but we definitely need to check this and get confirmation on it. So any and everyone who's interested in this topic, start doing your own research. Share it with me too. You don't have to have a degree, a college degree to do this. You just get in and you start and you begin to learn. Okay? And most extremely importantly, cooperate, not just with me, but with others. If you don't cooperate, let's say you have a good reason, you don't trust, or you've been injured in the past, but you've got to get over that. You've got to learn how to make better decisions and how to protect and avoid yourself, not just don't cooperate, because we will never move forward as a people. We need each other. This is how knowledge grows, through cooperation. Okay, y'all? And not hoarding knowledge, and you know how our people can be. Everyone has a good excuse, right? To not cooperate. We've all been injured. All right. But anyway, let's continue. In ancient times, the body of this constellation was nearer the North Pole. And as the tail moved around the North Pole, so this is the tail of the Great Bear, it was said strongly to resemble a pointer, like the hand of a clock, a time teller. So this is talking about the minute hand of the clock of destiny that extends from the North Celestial Pole to the South Celestial Pole. But let's let the author continue. Quote unquote, typhoon in the north and soot, this is soot the dog star, in the south were likened to the two hands of a clock. This is the clock of destiny that C.M. Bay used as a title of his two-volume work, The Clock of Destiny. Okay, y'all, let's continue. The bear being the pointer hand, so the bear, the Great Bear in the north, is the pointer hand, is the minute hand of the Clock of Destiny, and Sit the dog star, the hour hand of the Clock of Destiny. So do y'all see that? So it's stretching from the North Celestial Pole to the South Celestial Pole. Okay? The two hands of a clock, Clock of Destiny. Let's continue. Pythagoras, everyone remembers Pythagoras' theorem, right? Pythagoras calls the two bears, this would be Ursa Major, The Great Bear and Ursa Minor, the Lesser Bear, so the Big Bear and the Small Bear. The two hands of the Genetrix. So now here we have Pythagoras, and of course he is not the originator of the Pythagorean theorem, right? That's made up. What he's saying is that in the North Celestial Pole, the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, these are the constellations that are being spoken of here. The Big Dipper and the Little Dipper tie up the ground in the Ursa Major constellation, the Big Dipper, and the Little Dipper are two hands of the Genetrix. Well, what's a Genetrix? Genetrix is the mother ancestor, the womb. Okay, so the two hands of a clock that speak to where you come from. Okay, your ancestry. Everyone see that? Your celestial ancestry. So now this is the Celestial Ship of the North. Okay, volume 1, page 21. Let me show y'all. There's no coincidence that they put Pythagoras in there. So y'all gonna have to pause it on the replay because I have minimal time. I'll leave it here for another few seconds. Okay, so now we're dealing with the North Celestial Pole. Uh-oh. We're dealing with the North Celestial Pole and a circle that's drawn around it that, that represents the universe, and the North Celestial Pole is said to be the throne of God. The North Celestial Pole, I'm trying to remember the citation, is said to be the throne of God. It'll come to me. All right, the throne of God. And by the way, so if you imagine the circle in the North Celestial Pole, okay, it's going east to west, right? The clock of destiny circle is going north to south, okay? So imagine a big clock facing you this way and another one like this, okay, at the top. Now, the circle in the north divided into 4 sections. So give it a line vertically in the middle and a line horizontally going straight through the middle. Where they intersect, y'all, would be the North Celestial Pole. Hold on. Let me see. Let me pull it up. So do y'all see the symbol here? In the middle would be the North Celestial Pole. That's the throne of God. Everybody see that? Now look at the intersecting vertical and horizontal line. So do you see that's a 90-degree angle? 90-degree angle is a circle, is a square, right? So here's the squared circle. In boxing, even we talk about the squared circle, right? So here's the squared circle, and in each section, see the white parts? Okay, they look like pieces of pie. There is a cherubim in each section. Okay, so the Most High dwells between the cherubim. Now we're in the North Celestial Pole. We're not looking at the ecliptic with the SUN sun in the middle. That's a remix of this. They just dropped it down. The North Celestial Pole, y'all, is the center of the universe. So if you graph it, it would be point A, comma B. So it'd be 0, 0, right? So hold on, so let's look at how this has been remixed. So let's look at some of the remixes. There's your Christian cross. All right, y'all. Ain't no shame in their game. Their thing, their thing is to keep you ignorant. Because once you begin to discover this stuff, it's completely obvious of what the deal is. All right? There a TI is. Remixed in the solar religion, remixed into the celestial, into the solar zodiac and the solar religions. Okay, y'all. See, if you know about the solar zodiac, you would think, okay, so these are the cardinal points, right? These are the cardinal points. And if you know a little bit more, you know about the Most High being in the middle between the cherubim, which we just discussed, right? There's another. There's another knockoff. There's another cheap knockoff of the Sabian circumpolar zodiac projection, the original and real zodiac, y'all. There are the four corners and the four squares, the squared circle. All right, y'all. And what else do you see? That right angle. Take a look. The compass and the what, y'all? The compass and the square. You see the compass and the square. So there's a picture of this. I'm going and so there it is one more again for y'all. Y'all see the squared circle, the 90 degrees, 90-degree angle, right? Where the lines intersect. All right. So the center of that is the North Celestial Pole, referred to in religion as the throne of God. And the cherubim of Ezekiel chapter 1 and Revelation, I believe is 14, are in the middle of those pies, right? So there are four cherubim in each section, okay? And the Most High is between the cherubim. So in the solar zodiac, this would be winter, summer, spring, and fall. The north gate, the south gate, the east gate, the west gate, all right? In the circumpolar zodiac at the celestial North Pole, here a TI is, y'all. One quadrant represents or is represented by a hippo, which traces back to the Great Mother Typhoon, which traces back to, or which is rather, the Hermetic law of gender in its feminine function of producing and reproducing. All right, and transforming. All right, another section is a lion, which was originally a phoenix bird coming out of the fire. Another section is an alligator representing the earth, if I remember correctly. And the other one, y'all, is supposed to be the ape representing the air. Now, isn't that interesting? So now here we have the four. We have the wind, air, fire, and water. Okay, but one is said to be the ape. Now I'm curious about that because I don't know if the ape is a hybrid or not. Well, I don't know, but it's supposed to be an ape. And I'm gonna show. You know what? Let me show y'all something. Maybe I'm bouncing around too much. If I have time, I'll come back to it. But I want to get this in the record for all of the Moors, for everyone to consider, to inspect, give me feedback. If I'm wrong about something, y'all let me know. If you want to be encouraging, let me know that. So do y'all see the level? Do you see the level here and the line? Everybody see that? Now do y'all see the square? The compass and the square? Hold on. So y'all scrutinize this and make some decisions as to whether or not you're going to start learning it and teaching it. I think that's the whole purpose of me doing this. Because let me tell y'all something. I never in a million years thought that I would do this. Never in a million years. You couldn't have told me that this is what I would spend most of my time doing, or even a little of my time, to be honest with you. But this is what it is for me, and I accept it, and I'm doing it. Right? I accept it, and I'm doing it. I'm not running from it. All right. So this is Clock of Destiny, Volume 1, page 13. Do y'all see the squared circle over here? The compass and the square. So we're going to deal with these images one more again today, but I want to focus more on getting the algebra and geometry out. So now we have a little bit of background on this. Let's see if I can find some good stuff. Oh, but before we do that, y'all. So here's the remix. Okay, here's some of the brainwashing, some of the symbology that has been used to brainwash. All right. So let's go. You know what? I'm going to go to. Hold on, y'all. I'm trying to pull the info up. All right. Yeah. Here's where we started. All right. So take a look at this. This is a equation of a circle. The equation of a circle. So y'all look at the center point. The center point, A comma B. That's the North Star. I'm sorry, the North Celestial Pole. All right. And then again, the circle is everything that is. So this is the universe. Okay. The circle is the universe. Okay. So take a look. Now, it says here x, quantity x minus a squared plus quantity y minus b squared equals r squared. Y'all see that? So what is this telling us? Regardless of any point that there is inside of the circle, we can identify it. Okay? Just by using this algebraic this equation. So in other words, God sees everything. This is where that doctrine comes from. God sees everything. Okay? Mathematics is the language of the universe. Is the language of nature. So now let's look at another. Give me 1 second. So let me define the terms. I guess that's where I should start. Hold on, y'all. Here we are. So I showed this one last time. So here you are, y'all. Don't worry, if you were not good in math when you were in school, you're a new person now. You're a whole new person. Your brain is more developed than it was when you were in school. So none of that matters now. All right. It only matters if you believe it matters. Okay. So you can forget about all of that because that's not true today. That was then when you were young and your brain was not very well developed, or maybe you were kicking it too much. All right. So don't be scared because you've been brainwashed that you're not good in math. So these are the terms of a circle. Everybody see those? It's kind of hard for me to see because I'm behind. So we have the center, radius, diameter, circumference, arc of a circle, sector of a circle, and then a semicircle. Okay, so we're going to get into this a little bit more. One moment. All right, y'all. So here's a circle. Look in the center. The center, this would be the center is the north celestial pole. So you see the line, the horizontal line, that's the diameter. Do you see it stretches from one edge of the circle straight to the other edge of the circle? Do y'all see that? That's diameter. And look at the radius. The radius stretches from the center or the north celestial pole to the edge of a circle. That's the radius. The radius R. Okay, y'all? Very simple, right? Hold on. 1 second. Hold on, y'all. Give me 1 second. Okay, so you see the edge, the edge of the circle. Take a look at the edge of the circle. Oh, hold on. The edge of the circle is called the circumference. All right. You see the yellow portion? That's called a semicircle. The blue is called a quadrant. So that would mean the green is also the green section is a quadrant. So this circle there are what? 3 quadrants. But remember the one we looked at earlier had 4 quadrants, right? With the 4 living creatures. Okay, that Ezekiel chapter 1 and Revelation 4 trace back to. All right, y'all. And by the way, speaking of those four quadrants, uh, remember I mentioned that one initially was the phoenix bird, then it was changed to a lion. This would be in the solar zodiac, Leo the lion. Leo the lion. Okay. There's another one that's in the solar zodiac. Uh, Leo the lion. It'll come to me. When it comes to me, I'll share it with y'all. All right, TJ Ward, I guess is not happy with what I'm doing here. Looking at his emojis. Okay, so here's our algebraic equation that describes a circle on the graph paper. Hold on, let me put it this way. Hold on. So take note. If you graph this out, you can find any point within the circle. Okay. So do y'all remember this from, I think it's junior high school math? So here's our equation. X squared plus y squared equals r squared. Hold on. Make it a little bit bigger. All right. And in the center, do you see 0, 0? That's the center. That's the north celestial pole, which is x comma y. So based upon this, y'all, no matter where you are inside of that circle, you can be found. So, in other words, God sees everything in the universe. God has eyes all around the universe. You're looking at the equation and the source of where that doctrine comes from. Okay? Just by solving this equation, you can find any point within that circle. God has eyes everywhere in religion. Does everyone see it? Everybody see that? Now, look further at the circle, at the throne of God. Look at the radius. Look at the radius. Okay, the black line, R. So this is a system, and the system must be kept at equilibrium. And we know it's at equilibrium because everything works like clockwork, right? There are laws and principles that govern it. The system is at equilibrium. So what is this telling us? Y'all remember the concept of what what the diameter is? So look from the center and imagine drawing a line from the center to the other edge of the circle so that instead of having a radius line, you'd have the diameter. So what is this telling us? This is telling us that there has to be an equal and opposite force at the other end of the dot representing the radius line. There has to be an equal and opposite force opposing that. So let's say if you're standing in the center, okay, there has to be an equal and opposite force against you to keep everything in equilibrium. That means to keep everything balanced and from falling apart, right? So in other words, there has to be what, y'all? An equal and opposite force, as in the Hermetic law of polarity, the law of opposites. We're looking at the law of opposites. This is what our ancestors got from this simple equation. And when they drew a line around that which is boundless, and that line was a circle. I'm sorry, when they drew a boundary around that which is boundless. So this is the north celestial pole. And here we see the Hermetic law of polarity. Does everyone see it? There has to be an equal and opposite force. No matter if you could stand anywhere within that circle, okay, and there would be a pressure applied or a force applied. So opposite that, there'd have to be an equal and opposite pressure. Or look at it this way, y'all. You see the radius line? Y'all see that? Now, draw a line from the center to the opposite end or the opposite edge of the circle. It's going to be equal, right? It'll be equal in distance. But one is positive, the other one is negative. Y'all see it? One of the lines would be positive, the other one negative. Take a look. This radius right here is in the positive area of the line. If you drew a line from the center to the edge of the circle, it would be negative. It would be in a negative area. Do you see it? All the points would be negative. So this is the law of polarity. Okay? So for example, if you draw a line at one extreme opposite end of the line would be positive, at the other extreme opposite end of the line it would be negative. And in the middle it would be zero. No charge. Okay, this is a Hermetic law of polarity. Does everyone see it? Everything is in motion. So this is a Hermetic law of vibration. Move anywhere in here. It's impossible to stay still. Okay, you can walk around the perimeter, start at point A and return to point B. That's the Hermetic law of rhythm. We can go on and on. Okay, but what made this? Well, there are seven Hermetic laws. The first is mentalism, which is consciousness, which would be considered in religion God, right? Capital G. But we know that's a hustle. But I'm talking to you religionists. And then God takes out of himself the Holy Spirit. So this would be the Hermetic law of gender in its feminine function of birthing, rebirthing, transforming, reproducing, producing, right? So that's what produced this circle. Everybody see that? Now, let's continue. Hold on, y'all. Also, notice that the circle, of course, is 360 degrees, right? Right, y'all? Now, circles have an area, they have radius, and they have area. So this is Ra, R-A, R-A, Ra. Radius and area were remixed into the solar religion. Well, let's say before they radius and Ra from the north celestial pole, the circumpolar zodiac, was remixed in the solar zodiac as Ra, Ra, which is the sun sun. And the sun in the solar zodiac is the center of the universe. All the planets are revolving around the sun, right? Orbiting around the sun. There are seven planets, or initially seven planets. Well, the seven planets trace back to the seven stars that make up the thigh of the Great Bear. Is it understood, scholars? Everyone see the parallels here? How they just remixed it? All right. So now let's look at the area of a circle. Here's the area of a circle. Area equals what, y'all? Pi times r squared. Let me see if I can, hold on. It's hard for me to see it. All right. So here we are, scholars. Oh my gosh. Area equals pi times r squared. Pi times the radius squared equals area. Circumference equals 2 times pi times radius. Diameter equals 2 times the radius. Okay, y'all? So radius and area Ra gets remixed into the solar zodiac as the sun sun. The circumference of the universe was remixed from the circumpolar zodiac in the North Pole region of space, brought down in elevation, right? Brought down in elevation, and then remixed. This whole thing was remixed as the sun sun being the center of the universe, right? With Mercury being in the bosom of the Father, and the Father is the sun sun, Ra, the Ra class of deities. So Mercury is in the bosom of the Father, meaning that Mercury is the planet that's close, if I remember correctly, is the planet that's closest to the sun, is moving the fastest. This is why I believe it's the messenger. It's hot. It's receiving all of that solar energy according to the solarites, right? So therefore, Mercury is in the bosom of the Father. All right, y'all. Saturn uh, was said to be, I guess at that time, the last. So it was the biggest and what? The blackest, because it's furthest away from the sun sun. So it's getting the least amount of sunlight, right? So Saturn becomes black and cold, the Punisher, right? So it's darkness being made evil and wicked, okay? Because we know that that's not what the darkness is. The darkness is everything that's good, everything that's wonderful in the circumpolar zodiac. All right, y'all? So they just flipped the script. So let's continue. But if there's anything I want you to remember, is that the origin of the concept of God is solar. It ain't no older than approximately 4,590 or so BC, before the Common Era. The Solarites took these equations and made it into a god. And why would they do that? Because this was common knowledge amongst the Sabian Moors. We all knew this. We were all master mathematicians, y'all. That might be hard for y'all to believe, but there were no mystery schools during solar time. These are the mysteries. You're looking at the initial mysteries of the mystery school system that the solar rites brought in. These were the mysteries. In other words, they hid mathematics from you. They made you dumb in mathematics by hiding it from you. And then planting seed thoughts, cuckoo bird egg seed thoughts into your mind to convince you that you couldn't do math and you couldn't learn. Huh? That's what I want y'all to remember. The original concept of God comes from mathematical equations that describe a circle. And that circle is circle 7. It's circle 7. All right? Furthermore, furthermore, since as Pythagoras told us, in his opinion, the Big Dipper or the Great Bear and the Little Bear are the two arms of the genetrix, the two arms of your mama, your mother, your celestial mother in the north celestial pole region, the womb, the mother of everything, including you and I. But of course, that's who we are, right? That's the takeaway. So y'all get away from this spookism. You don't have to be afraid of these external gods. Now you know how do we used to say it when I was in high school. Now you're up on game. Ain't nothing to be scared of. And these deities aren't doing anything for you. Any type of punishment or reward or answered prayer that you have received was because of the faculty of your own mind. We call it the workshop of your mind. All right. And that's just the fact. Okay. Today they call it manifesting, but of course, manifesting is not the real deal. Otherwise, everybody would be doing it. So give me 1 second, y'all. Bear with me. We are not done yet. Hold on. Trying to get the right stuff. Okay, so here's how the equation of a circle was derived. Okay, I'm not going to read it in. Y'all can look at it and go over it yourself. Okay. I mean, probably if you're watching this, you probably, I'm sure, remember this from junior high or first year college. You know, so hold on, y'all. We still got to deal with the triangle. Hold on. So I'm having a little bit of a difficult time navigating. Well, this might be useful for y'all to play with. So take a look here. I'm not going to read through it, but y'all look at it. Maybe it'll be helpful for some of you who may have some questions about it still. So take a look at this. Pause it on the replay, okay? I want to get to the triangle part. Hold on. So I see I have to. Uh, I've got to start getting back into the math. Hold on. Okay, so y'all take a look at this. What's the question? So here's an example of a circle. It says, what example? Find an equation of the circle of radius 5 and center 3, comma 2. Remember, God is everywhere. God has eyes everywhere. God sees everything. This is an example of that mathematically. Okay? So God's word is natural law. The language of nature, of discovery, scientific discovery, innovation, engineering is math. Okay? So the answer is at the bottom. It says that an equation for the circle of radius r with center hk is, it could be a, b, it could be anything, y'all, right? Is r squared equals quantity x minus h squared plus quantity y minus k squared. No matter where you go, any point within this circle, anywhere in the universe, God will see you. That's where this doctrine comes from. God has eyes everywhere. All right, y'all? See, this is the way they should have taught math in school. A lot of our people would have been more interested, but of course, that wasn't their goal, right? One second. Let me put in a new search term, y'all. Okay, so let's look at the area of a triangle. Y'all see the triangle, right? If I remember correctly, the angles are 33 degrees or 33.33. So the area equals 1/2 the base times the height. Everybody see that? Very standard. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Hold on. Give me 1 second, y'all. So I'm sorry. The hold on. Oh no, I'm 5%. Dang. It's all right. I'll charge it and come back to it. I'm looking for specifically the triangles that I want, y'all. Let me do it different. I changed my search term. All right. Here we is. There we are. There we are. Okay, y'all. So these angles, if I remember correctly, this is a triangle within a circle, are 33.33 degrees. So the triangle has three sides, which is 33. Okay, remember we're talking about the universe, and the center is the north celestial pole. Hold on. Give me 1 second, y'all. Hey, what happened? Huh. Give me 1 second. It moved. Hold on, y'all. My web page changed. Let's try to do it again. All right. All right. Okay, y'all. Just take a look at it. I'm gonna come back to it. Okay. This is, you see the points A, B, and C. You see the radius, the base X. Okay, hold on, y'all. I'm gonna have to charge my phone in a second. It keeps turning off. Hold on. Hold on. Yeah, I'm gonna have to charge it. Right? And I really wanted to show y'all this. Shoot. Y'all stay with me, okay? If you're interested, stay with me. If you're not interested, see you next time. I have to charge it. It's not. Give me 1 second. Let me charge my phone. Give me 1 second, y'all. It won't be long. So we can go to CM Bay. If anyone knows how to screen share in Rumble Studio, y'all let me know, okay? So let's go to This is this is this is the Clock of Destiny, volume volume 2, page 30, page 37. Very interesting because 3 plus 7 is 10. Of course, 10 is 9. 9, of course, is the Great Mother Typhoon, or or uh, the Hermetic law of gender, the feminine extremity. Okay, y'all think it's by coincidence that these symbols are on this page? I don't think so. You're looking at the first revolution of the Great Bear around the celestial North Pole, which marks the beginning of time and space and everything that's physical and material that we read on page 21. That's what we're looking at. So look at our triangle inside of the circle. You see there's three sides. 3 plus 3 plus 3 is 9. Takes us back to the Great Mother Typhoon, right? The number 9, the circle at the top represents the womb, and the line represents the vaginal canal. You're looking at circle 7, scholars. Y'all look at my notes. So I'm not going to go through it. Y'all can read through it. If you have any questions about it, you can um, put it in the chat. Okay, Seeley 15 writes, measure the triangle or diameter. Seeley, I don't know what you mean. Can you clarify? I showed the equations already, Seeley, to determine radius and diameter, also circumference. I showed them all. Okay, so again, if you want to know why 10 is 9, you can read up on page 30, page 43 of volume 1 of the Clock of Destiny. Or if you can understand my notes, you can read it in my notes right here. I don't know if y'all can understand my notes. I do. Oh, excuse me. All right. See, these are the initial 4 corners. One sector represents the hippopotamus, which is the great bear. I believe it's water. The other section represents uh, the phoenix bird, which is later remixed into a lion, which becomes Leo the lion in the solar zodiac, also the lion of the tribe of Judah, right? Responsible, of course, July. Is it July? Yeah, July is when the sun is most intense. The sun's energy is, Ra's energy is most intense, and it fecundates the soil, pushing the mature crops, their fruit, vegetables, etc. All that extra solar energy in the soil absorb gets absorbed by the vegetation, and it causes those mature fruits, etc., to ripen. To ripen. Okay, the other quadrant is, we're in the squared circle. The other quadrant is again an ape, which is supposed to be air. And I got to deal with that one. And then the other quadrant is, y'all, well, alligator. I think the alligator represents Earth. I have to go back to it. All right, y'all. So that's where the cardinal points come from in the solar zodiac, and the concept of the cherubim between, well, the Most High is between the cherubim. Point 0, 0 is the north celestial pole, the throne of God. So therefore, the Most High in the circumpolar zodiac, and then there's a cherubim in each of the four corners, in each of the four sections. All right, of the squared circle. That's what it is, y'all. That's what it is. Okay. Uh, so let's deal with the 6-pointed star while my phone is charging. So, everything I'm talking about right now, I learned from Dr. Ben. I mean, I put two and two together, but I was able to do that because I remembered listening to a lecture he gave, and I wanted to find the lecture. So I went into the workshop of the mind, and I was able to get my hands on that lecture, right? And then I was able to put two and two together, and I'm giving you all that now. So here's the universe with the throne of God in the middle, point 0, 0. So if you draw a line from the center, from the throne of God to the edge of the circle or to the circumference, let's say the top, and you draw another line at having the same angle as the first to the other edge of the line, you get a triangle. Y'all see the dotted line? That's the base of the triangle, right? Now, outside of the circle that you're looking at right now, connect those two lines, make sure they have the same angles. And now you have what, scholars? You have two triangles of the same volume or same area, right? They mirror each other. Do y'all see that? Now, let's do it differently. Let me get a pen. If you bring the triangles together, overlap them, you overlap them, what do you get? You get a 6-pointed star. Can everybody see that? You get a 6-pointed star. They remix this as a Star of David in religion. Okay, so let's look at it differently. I'm gonna draw another circle. Now, do y'all see? Here, I drew a square inside of a circle. Let me see if I can do a better job. Make it more obvious. Hold on. Y'all just imagine, okay? So imagine that this is a perfect square inside of a circle. Y'all see that? Okay. So let's do this. Let's put a dotted line. Let's put a dotted line between the square, right down the center of the square. We put a dotted line. Y'all see now we have a pyramid, right? Oops. Now there's what? Two pyramids, right? Now let's overlap these two pyramids. Let's overlap them. This is what you're going to get. When you overlap them, you get a 6-pointed star. Okay, now you can do all kinds of geometry, right? Because you're dealing with angles, the angles between two lines. So the whole concept of God, the whole concept of religion, whole concept of religion has its origin in algebra and geometry. Period. Period. So what did they do? What else did they do? So they took this part of our culture, the science of numbers, scaling from 0 to 9, plus the workshop of the mind. Hold on. Plus the workshop of the mind. Okay, so the algebra and geometry of a circle, plus the workshop of the mind, they remixed into Ra classification of gods. In other words, the solar gods, the solar religions. That's what they did. Ra, the R in Ra is radius. The A is area. So, I almost forgot. Let's deal with that. We need to deal with radius and area. I know I gave y'all the equation, but let me do it one more again. I have something better. So I got a little charge I can work with on the battery. So I pre-prepared something, and y'all know it's not like me to pre-prepare something. I don't like to do things that way. It makes it boring for me. Ain't this nothing? They done signed me out of my, they done signed me out of my account. Which account did I do it in? Man, let's see. I hope this is it. Yeah, I think I found it, y'all. Hold on, y'all. I gotta find where I left off. All right, give me 1 second. I found it, y'all. Be a little. Try to be patient. Let me get it to the top of where I want to be, and let's deal with it. Y'all share the video. Let's get this information out. Okay. Let's put the coffin. Let's put the nail in the coffin of these solar religions. Okay. So Sealy 15 writes, measure the triangle or diameter. Okay. So here we go, Sealy. All right. So should I start where I started? So yeah, I did this with AI. This is Google Gemini. So do y'all see my question regarding a circle? R remember is radius equals what? So let's just go through it. A classic question. In the context of a circle, R typically represents its radius. So R equals radius of the circle. Is there anything else you'd like to know about the radius? or the other properties of a circle. Let's continue. Uh-oh. Hold on. Let me take this off real quick. So y'all be patient, okay? Remember, I'm doing a class. This is not for entertainment, okay? Or as they remember what, it's not for shits and giggles, okay? All right. So the next search term I put in was discuss each. So if I'm new to AI, y'all, so maybe some of you all are, but anyway, it says here absolutely, absolutely they're going to discuss it, right? Or it's going to discuss it. Let's explore how radius r of a circle relates to its diameter, circumference, and area. Now we've gone through that, so this is probably going to be a review for you. One, radius and diameter. The diameter of a circle is a straight line segment that passes through the center of the circle and connects to 2 points on its circumference. The radius, on the other hand, is a straight line segment from the center of the circle, that would be the north celestial pole, the throne of God, to any point on its circumference. The relationship between the radius and the diameter is quite straightforward. The diameter is always twice the length of the radius. Yeah.
Yeah, we are like 10, close at 10.
Oh, you close at 10?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so here we are. So mathematically, this is expressed as diameter equals 2 times the radius. Conversely, the radius is half the length of the diameter. So here's the equation. Radius equals diameter divided by 2. Think of it like this. If you draw a straight line across a circle through its center, that's the diameter. The radius is simply the distance from the center to the edge of the circle. Okay, y'all? Now let's go to radius and circumference. Radius, 2, radius and circumference. The circumference of a circle is the distance around its outer edge. The radius plays a key role in determining the circumference. The relationship is defined by the mathematical constant pi. Do y'all see that? The relationship is defined by the mathematical constant pi. Do y'all see the variables? There's the pi sign. Do y'all see the pi sign? Remember that from junior high and high school, first year college? Pronounce pi, which is approximately equal to 3.14159. Pi is approximately equal to 3.14159. Remember, that's dealing with the radius and circumference, okay? Let's continue. The formula for the circumference of a circle in terms of its radius is circumference, C equals 2 times pi times radius. Circumference equals 2 times pi times radius. This formula tells us that the circumference is directly proportional to the radius. Absolutely, it's 2 times pi times radius. If you double the radius, you double the circumference. 3, radius and area. This is ra. This is the sun god Ra. This is also Ra, the sun sun. So three, radius and area. Radius and area. Ra, this is the initial, the first, the original concept of God coming from the Solarites. The area A of a circle is the amount of space enclosed within its circumference. Again, the radius is fundamental in calculating the area. The formula for the area of a circle in terms of its radius is area A equals pi times r squared. Area A of a circle equals pi times radius squared. A equals pi times r squared. Does everyone see that? Notice here that the area proportional to the square of the radius. Again, notice here that the area is proportional to the radius. I'm sorry, let me repeat that. Notice here that the area is proportional to the square of the radius. This means if you double the radius, the area becomes 4 times larger. This means if you double the radius, the area becomes 4 times larger. And there's the math, okay? Okay, y'all. Sealy 15, I hope you're watching. So to summarize, diameter D equals D. Diameter D is D equals 2 times R. Diameter equals 2 times the radius. Circumference C equals, or circumference C rather, is C equals 2 times par. C equals 2 times pi times R. Circumference equals 2 times pi times the radius. Area A is equal to A equals pi times the radius squared. Area A equals pi times the radius squared. Okay, these relationships are fundamental in understanding and working with circles in geometry and various other fields. There you have it. God has eyes everywhere. Everywhere. God sees everything. Okay? The sun is the center of the universe. Ra is the sun sun. Okay? The sun sun is the son sun. Okay? Again, Ra, radius, and area. Okay? And from that, of course, we deal with pi. Okay? Let me see if I can squeeze in. Hold on, y'all. Let me see if I can squeeze this in real quick. Okay, y'all. So here we are. I just put the question in Google Gemini. So this is the result I got. The value of pi wasn't so much determined from the equations of a circle as it was discovered as what? A fundamental property of all circles. The value of pi wasn't so much determined from the equations of a circle as it was discovered as a fundamental property of all circles, which then led to the formulation of those equations, the equations of a circle that we just went over, okay? Here's how it unfolded. Empirical observation. Ancient civilizations like the Babylonians and Egyptians observed that for any circle, the ratio of its circumference, which is the distance around it, to its diameter, which is the distance across it through the center, was always the same, regardless of the circle size. Regardless of the circle's size. Okay, y'all? They made estimations of this ratio through measurement. For example, the Babylonians approximated it as 3 and 1/8, 3.125. And the Egyptians used a value around 3.16. These were based on practical measurements of geometric constructions. Of course, you know our ancestors had it perfect. The evidence of that is the Great Pyramid in Giza, right? And others. They're perfect. The discovery of a constant ratio. Early mathematicians, see, here's the bullshit. Early mathematicians, particularly the Greeks, started to think more directly about this relationship. What in the Greek on, listen, the pyramids were built when the Paleolithic hybrid troglodyte niggers were still in caves. They came to ancient Egypt, pyramids and everything already built. This is straight up bullshit. But anyway, let's let them have this narcissistic rant. Early mathematicians, particularly the Greeks, started to think more abstractly about this relationship. They began to realize this relationship wasn't just a coincidence of their measurements, but a constant inherent to the nature of circles in Euclidean geometry. Can y'all believe that? Sociopaths, psychopaths, rather. Both. Damn narcissists. So Archimedes around 250 BC, y'all know that this is bullshit, is credited with the first rigorous mathematical calculations of pi. This is bullshit. There would be no great pyramids or the other great pyramids, right, without having a perfect pi calculation. So this is all bullshit. He didn't derive it from pre-existing equation of a circle in the way we understand it today. Instead, he used a geometric approach. Fresh bullshit. You know what? I'm not going to even read this. Well, let me go on through it. He inscribed regular polygons like hexagons inside a circle and circumscribe similar polygons outside a circle. By calculating the perimeters of these polygons with an increasing number of sides, he could establish upper and lower bounds for the circumference of the circle. Straight up bullshit. Y'all know they stole this from our ancestors, right? And that's not a claim. We have physical evidence of it. See, these people are known liars. This is why they have to keep you ignorant because the lies are so obvious. Since the ratio of the circumference of the diameter is pi, and he had bounds for the circumference, and he knew the diameter, he could establish bounds for pi. He showed that, and he gives a mathematical equation. All right, y'all. That's just straight up bullshit. I mean, you know, I'm tired of all of these damn lies that they tell, right? Because it's an insult, it's mockery. And for those of you who don't care, you know, shame on you for not loving yourself. The worst person is an indifferent person. Crucially, Archimedes proved that the ratio of the circle's circumference to its diameter is a constant. Defining pi over time, this constant ratio became so fundamental that it was given a name, pi, the Greek letter pi. The definition of pi became, and here's the definition of pi, y'all. There's the definition of pi. Pi equals the circumference divided by the diameter. Since the diameter d is twice the radius, which is r, d equals 2 times r. Diameter equals 2 times radius.
29.
All right. Oops. Okay, y'all. So this is the kind of hot bullshit that we need to deal with. So for those you might be interested, this is Vietnamese fiat. This is Ho Chi Minh. This is the back. Okay.
Good example.
Hold on, y'all. I gotta close this door. I don't want to give YouTube a excuse to censor the video with that music going in the background. Since the diameter is twice the radius, diameter equals 2 times the radius, this definition also implies pi equals circumference divided by 2 times the radius. Okay, I hope I'm answering you guys' questions who contacted me for more information about these equations. Okay, which rearranges to the formula, to the familiar formula for the circumference. Okay, so now that's where this is this familiar formula to the circumference that he's talking about. Circumference equals 2 times pi times radius. So let me show. Okay, so this is what he's talking about. Okay, pi equals circumference divided by 2 times radius.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, man. Gets rearranged to circumference equals 2 times pi times the radius. 4, deriving the area formula. The formula for the area of a circle, which is A equals pi times radius squared, was developed based upon the understanding of pi and through various geometric arguments, often involving dividing the circle into many small sectors that approximate triangles. The base of these triangles relates to the circumference, which is 2 times pi times r, or 2. Okay. Can you? Yeah, thanks. I'm gonna leave in 1 second.
All right.
Okay, y'all. So the base of these triangles relates to the circumference, 2 times pi times radius, and the height relates to the radius. Summing the areas of these approximate triangles leads to the area formula. In essence, pi was first observed and understood as a constant ratio inherent in all circles. Through measurement and geometric reasoning, this fundamental property was then defined as pi, and this definition was used to develop the formula for the circumference and area of a circle. So the constant pi came before the formal equations of a circle. Oh, I just realized something. In the sense that its key component within these equations representing a fundamental geometric truth. So y'all, this is This is the importance of the six-pointed star, because it was through triangles and the six-pointed star that our ancestors were able to develop pi. Hence, the significance of the six-pointed star, and why the religious people, specifically the Jews, made it sacred, a sacred representation of God. Why? Because that was how pi was derived and all of the equations of a circle. The equation of a circle rely on pi because pi encapsulates the unique relationship between the circle's linear dimensions, radius, diameter, circumference, and its area. So this is why Ra becomes God. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom, y'all. Islam to all the Moors.